All right, get ready, because we're diving headfirst into chapter 26 of Gospel According to the Spirit.
Oh, yeah. This one is a thinker.
Yeah, it really is.
It really makes you kind of think about things.
It's all about giving freely what you've received freely, especially when it comes to things like healing and prayer,
Right.
even mediumship.
Yeah, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you know, the things that can get a little bit messy when you start
But-
talking about money.
For sure.
So this chapter really kind of pushes us to examine the motivations behind these practices, how they intersect with our modern world.
Yeah, and we're going to unpack some pretty heavy concepts here.
Yeah, we are.
Get ready.
So let's just jump right into it with the idea of healing.
Okay.
Right from the get-go, Jesus tells his disciples, give freely what you have received freely.
Right.
It's such a simple statement. But what does it actually mean when we apply it to something as profound as healing?
Well, it's about recognizing that the ability to heal is a divine gift,
Okay.
not a service to be bought or sold. Like you said, like a car or a haircut.
Yeah.
It challenges the very foundation of how we view healthcare and access to healing in our society.
Really does.
Think about it. If healing is a divine gift, does that mean that everyone should have equal access to it, regardless of their financial status?
Whoa, that's a big question right off the bat.
Right.
It makes you reconsider the whole system.
For sure.
And the chapter goes on to contrast this idea of a divine gift
Okay.
with the actions of those who exploit people's faith for profit.
Exactly.
Jesus specifically calls out the scribes for using lengthy prayers as a way to extract money from vulnerable widows.
Right. It's as if they were saying, the longer I pray, the more you pay.
It's like they're putting a price tag on God's favor,
Exactly.
which of course goes against the very essence of genuine prayer. It's
Yeah.
not about transactions.
Right.
It's about connection.
Yeah, it's like this spiritual marketplace.
Yeah, like a spiritual marketplace.
Right.
Which reminds me of the scene where Jesus flips out and throws the merchants out of the temple.
Right. And that scene is so crucial
Yeah, it is.
because the temple was considered the ultimate sacred space, a place of pure connection with the divine.
Yeah.
By turning it into a marketplace, the merchants were profaning that sacredness,
Right.
essentially saying that access to God could be purchased.
Putting a price tag on spirituality itself.
Right?
And
Yeah.
thinking about that in a modern context, it's like how much of our spiritual life has become commodified. You got self-help gurus selling enlightenment megachurches with million-dollar budgets.
Oh, yeah.
Even apps that claim to offer personalized spiritual guidance for a monthly fee.
It's a slippery slope.
It really is.
This chapter forces us to ask tough questions about where we draw the line between genuine spiritual expression and commercial exploitation.
Yeah, and the source doesn't stop there.
It doesn't.
This is where it gets really interesting to me.
Okay.
It brings up the topic of mediumship. Mediumship, healing, prayer.
Right.
They all seem to tap into something beyond the material world.
Yeah,
But mediumship brings in this whole other dimension of communicating with spirits.
for sure.
So how does this idea of giving freely apply to that?
Well, the chapter draws a parallel between the disciples' divinely given abilities to heal and cast out demons
Okay.
and the gifts that mediums possess.
Okay.
It argues that, like, healing mediumship is a gift with a higher purpose,
Okay.
not a profession to be monetized.
So it's not just about offering comfort and guidance to those seeking connection with loved ones who've passed, but doing so with a selfless spirit,
Right.
not viewing it as a business opportunity.
Imagine someone charging you to speak to your deceased grandmother.
Oh, yeah.
Most people would find that morally reprehensible, right? It makes you wonder, even if someone is genuinely gifted, how do they navigate the practical realities of making a living while upholding this principle of giving freely?
That's a great question.
And it leads us into the source's deeper argument against charging for mediumship. It states that true mediumship relies on the cooperation of spirits
Okay.
who aren't bound to anyone's financial demands.
So you can't exactly schedule a spirit to show up just because someone paid you a fee.
Right.
Adds a whole other layer of complexity to the ethics and practicality of charging for this kind of service.
It does, and I think this is where the source really pushes us to examine our own values and beliefs. Are we approaching these practices from a purely transactional perspective?
Yeah.
Or do we believe there's something more to it?
Right.
Something sacred that transcends the exchange of money for services?
It's almost like this chapter is urging us to rediscover the true meaning of these gifts and to reconsider how we value them in a society that's become so focused on profit and material gain.
It's a profound challenge.
Yeah, it is.
And it's just the beginning of our deep dive.
Yeah.
Let's see where this exploration takes us next.
Feels like we've stumbled upon a real paradox here.
Yeah.
On the one hand, we're presented with this call to give freely, to offer these incredible gifts without expectation of payment.
Right.
But on the other hand, we live in a world where most of us need to earn a living.
Yeah.
And that often means putting a price on our time and skills.
For sure.
So how do we reconcile these seemingly opposing forces?
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a question that has resonated through the ages.
Yeah.
The text itself doesn't provide a simple answer.
Right.
And that's what makes it so thought-provoking.
It really is.
It compels us to look inward to examine our own motivations and to consider the context in which these gifts are being shared.
I mean, take someone who is a full-time healer.
Okay.
They might genuinely feel called to help others.
Right.
But they also need to support themselves. Does that mean they can't charge for their services at all?
It's not necessarily about an all-or-nothing approach.
Okay.
Perhaps it's about finding a balance, a way to honor the spirit of giving freely while acknowledging the practical realities of life.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe it's offering sliding scale fees, providing some services for free, or incorporating a charitable aspect into their practice.
And I think intention plays a huge role here.
Oh, absolutely.
If someone's primary motivation is profit,
Right.
that feels very different from someone who is genuinely seeking to help others,
Totally.
but also needs to make a living.
Yeah, it's about constantly checking in with ourselves and asking,
Yeah.
why am I doing this? What is driving my actions?
It's almost like there's this inherent societal tension
Yeah.
between what we consider valuable and what we're willing to pay for.
Oh, yeah.
Think about professions like teaching or caregiving.
Right.
They're essential to our well-being as a society, but they're often underpaid and undervalued.
That's a very insightful observation.
Yeah.
It really speaks to the way we've structured our societal values around monetary compensation.
It really does.
Perhaps if we shifted our perspective and viewed these gifts as inherently valuable contributions to the well-being of humanity, regardless of their monetary worth, it might change how we approach the whole idea of compensation.
This deep dive is really pushing me to look beyond the surface and to grapple with some uncomfortable truths about how we operate in the world.
That's the power of engaging with these timeless ideas.
It is.
It challenges us to question our assumptions and to consider alternative ways of being.
You know, for me, the biggest takeaway so far is that healing prayer mediumship. They're not just services to be bought and sold.
Right.
They're expressions of something deeper, something connected to our shared humanity
Totally.
and our yearning for connection with the divine.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And it seems like this chapter is urging us to reclaim that sense of sacredness, to approach these areas of life with reverence and generosity.
It's almost like a call to action,
Yeah,
an invitation to embody these principles in our daily lives and interactions.
absolutely.
Even in small ways.
Yeah, little things add up.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I keep coming back to this question. Is it truly possible to live in a world where these principles are fully embraced?
Right.
A world where service to others trumps personal gain.
That's a question that has been pondered by philosophers and spiritual seekers for centuries.
Yeah.
Can we create a society that values these gifts in a way that transcends monetary worth?
It feels like a monumental task, maybe even impossible.
Perhaps it's not about finding a definitive answer,
Okay.
but about continually striving towards a better way of being, a
Yeah.
way of interacting with each other and with these gifts that honors their inherent value.
So maybe instead of getting bogged down by the enormity of the question,
Right.
we can each focus on what we can do individually.
Exactly. What if we each, in our own small way, looked for opportunities to give freely, to share our talents and resources without expecting anything in return?
Imagine the ripple effect that could create.
It's a powerful thought to leave our listeners with.
It is.
What would it look like for you to give freely? How can you embody these principles in your own life?
That's something for all of us to reflect on.
Yeah.
We've explored a lot of challenging ideas in this deep dive.
We have.
But ultimately, it's about taking those ideas out into the world
Yeah.
and putting them into practice.
And that's where the real transformation begins.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge to shift our mindset from what we can get to
Yep.
what we can give,
Yeah.
especially in a world that often feels so transactional.
I know.
But maybe that shift in perspective is exactly what we need to start breaking free from those limitations.
It's about recognizing the abundance that exists when we operate from a place of generosity, when we give freely.
Yeah.
We not only contribute to the well-being of others, but we also open ourselves up to receive in ways we might never have imagined.
It's like that saying, the more you give, the more you get.
Right.
But it's not about giving with the expectation of receiving something in return. It's about recognizing that generosity has a ripple effect, creating a cycle of abundance that benefits everyone involved.
Precisely. It's about shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
Okay.
When we believe there's enough for everyone, we're more likely to share freely and to support each other's growth and well-being.
This deep dive has been such a powerful reminder that these gifts, healing, prayer, mediumship, they're not just about individual abilities or services.
Right.
They're expressions of something much greater than ourselves.
Totally.
Something that connects us all.
They tap into our shared humanity, our yearning for connection, for healing, for meaning. And when we approach them with a spirit of generosity, we honor that interconnectedness and contribute to a more compassionate and vibrant world.
It's like we're being invited to step into a new way of being.
It is.
A way of living that prioritizes service, compassion, and the free exchange of these incredible gifts.
It's a vision worth striving for.
It is.
Even if we never fully achieve it.
Yeah.
The journey itself is transformative.
Well, on that inspiring note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Exploring the complexities of giving freely in a world that often seems to value profit above all else.
We've challenged assumptions, wrestled with ethical dilemmas.
Yeah.
And hopefully sparked some new insights and perspectives for our listeners.
I know it's given me a lot to think about.
Good.
And I hope it's inspired our listeners to consider how they can embody these principles in their own lives.
Remember, the conversation doesn't end here.
Right.
We encourage you to continue exploring these ideas, to challenge your own beliefs, and to find ways to give freely in whatever ways feel authentic to you.
Whether it's sharing your talents, offering a helping hand, or simply approaching your interactions with a more generous spirit.
Yeah.
Every act of giving makes a difference.
Until next time, keep diving deep, keep seeking knowledge, and most importantly, keep giving freely